Welcome to the Gym and Tonic Podcast. I'm your host, Shanae Kunsa from SK Bodyworks, and this is a space where self-development meets holistic health. This podcast will help you create transformation from the inside out, blending all things mindset, healing, habits, energetics, spirituality, health, fitness, and nutrition. And through these episodes, I'm going to help you activate your highest self and create a life that feels as good as it looks, mixed in with some laughs, a few F-bombs, and a whole lot of truths that your soul has been craving to help you evolve, expand, and align with your highest potential. So let's dive in and step into your next evolution. Hello and welcome back to the podcast. Today's episode is such an important conversation and one that I know is going to land so deeply for so many of you listening. Today's episode, we're going to be diving into and speaking about trauma, the nervous system, burnout, money, manifestation, and essentially how your lived experiences can, quietly block what you are often trying so hard to create or essentially call in. And while today's guest works specifically in, you could say, the business and burnout space, this conversation is not just for business owners. Everything that we're going to unpack today applies to, life, money, relationships, health, safety, self-trust, and of course, business. So for those of you that are listening that are business owners or that are thinking of starting up a business, I know that this episode is going to be exactly what you need to hear. So without further ado, let's welcome Emma Walsh to the podcast. I'm so excited that you're here.
Thank you so much for having me. I love that introduction. That was absolutely amazing. Like the energy there was just, I'm all for it. I'm all here for it. I absolutely love it. It just gets you psyched up. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And I love that. And I know when we were obviously connecting on Instagram, when we are kind of like back and forth with voice notes, we were like, oh my God, the energy here, it's such a vibe. We're definitely doing a podcast. So I'm glad we're here. And so in this episode, we will start by kind of unpacking Emma's journey of, building a business from scratch, of navigating burnout and money. And then we'll kind of move into, zooming out into how trauma and the nervous system patterns essentially affect manifestation as a whole. So whether if you're listening right now, whether you're building a business, navigating burnout, or simply just trying to create a little bit more ease, safety, and or abundance in your life, this episode is going to be right down your alley. So Emma, can you start by sharing a little bit about your story and essentially, what led you into the world of aligned business, burnout, and nervous system work?
Yeah, so we'll start at the very beginning because it is actually such an important part. And I think actually until even like today, I didn't realize how fundamental this was. So the very, very beginning of all of this journey, before I even realized it was a journey, I was a farmer. I was a tractor driver. It was, it was the heart of my life. And I would very easily work like 18-hour days. You wouldn't think anything of it. Like I remember today, I was reminiscing today on a time that I was working and rain was going to come. And we worked from 7 in the morning on one day, right through to 4 a.m., like the very next
Oh
day.
my God.
Yeah. And that was considered so normal. And we'll get around to why this is actually such an important piece of like my burnout journey. As we go. But in that time of being a tractor driver, of course, like I started doing that when I was 16. I'm 30 this year, and as scary as that is to say, because people say
Yeah,
you know what they say
literally.
about your 30s. And
100%.
so yeah, so I was a tractor driver for 8 years, and I built such a great profile in that industry and was featured on one of the global platforms for agriculture. I did so well. And on the background of that, I was actually in and out of toxic relationships. Like I was so desperate to be loved. And the final relationship before I met my current partner was with someone who had very narcissistic traits. And
Mm,
at that time, I was like, maybe it's me. I'm the problem because I'm the one that's always having these failed relationships. And of course, naturally, he was like, you've got trust issues, you've got this problem, because at the time he was sleeping with someone else. But
Mm,
that was my fault. And I didn't understand. I just saw his words and blamed myself. So I went to a relationship coach, and she listened to my story. And at that point I'd suffered a sexual trauma, like at that age. And she listened to that side of the story, and I explained everything that happened. She said, do you know what a narcissist is? And I said, I haven't got a clue. And she opened up this whole new world to me of narcissism, attachment styles, how our nervous system works, like our inner world, inner child healing. And I'm just like, I feel like I've lived under a rock all of this time. And I started to go onto this journey of healing my inner child, doing this attachment work, actually knowing what self-worth meant and
mm,
self-respect meant. Like, because in that time, we was always just told, oh, you've got to respect yourself. But no one ever tells you what that actually means. They just keep it in the sexual term that you don't respect yourself. Whereas I
mm,
think it actually runs so much deeper. And of course, we know that now. And she took me on this journey. We went through this journey, and eventually I left him. I left this toxic guy. And but at the time I decided that I loved that journey so much, and I saw such a huge change in myself, that I wanted to do that for other women. And I got a CBT diploma, and I then went on to study attachment styles. I read the books, and I then started to read. Actually, I've still got it up on my shelf. Um, Do the Work by Nicole Liepler. And she started to speak obviously about trauma bonds. And I was like, I'm obsessed with this. And this is where I got into like nervous system work. And that for me was so fundamental. And anybody who's listening who's been through any sort of sexual abuse, this phase was pivotal for me to stop blaming myself. Because in the moment I always blamed myself. And like my ex was always like, well, why didn't you just scream or run away? And it was like, I could never explain why I couldn't do that. And that hurt for me, let alone hurt for anybody else around me. And to learn that our nervous system will naturally send our body into a state of shutdown to protect us, I was finally like this whole level of relief had come along, that what I'd experienced was actually my body doing what it was meant to do in order to keep me safe in the best way that it knew how in that moment. So that was such a huge part of my journey. So of course then I'm like, I want to share this with so many women, because we don't get told that. Like I remember I went to talk therapy, and no one told me that. She just kept getting me to talk through the situation and how I felt. And I'm like 10 sessions in, and the memory's still here, and I'm still suffering with the emotions. And then of course I got obsessed, and I fell in love with that process, and went on to actually help women heal and release emotional trauma, which that was that big part. But in the process of building that business, I I functioned in that time very much in my deep masculine energy. It was like, I want this done. I want it done yesterday. We're getting, and
yeah, I
at
know
that
all about
point,
that.
I was, yeah. And I mean, at that point, like I was working a 9 to 5 job. I was going to the gym at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was meal prepping like every Sunday, like obsessively. Like I have my
Mm,
breakfast, lunches, dinners done. And I'd met my partner, Harry, by that point. And he, bless his heart, he is such a great, amazing guy. And he was so like, okay, I see you, I'm gonna go and do my thing, because like he's got a family farm, and it works great because he's so busy, and I'm like, this is brilliant, like you're busy, you're out of my way, I haven't got to worry about you, and I can focus on this business. And although I'd done all of this work on myself, like looking back now, there were so many little things that the warning signs were there. I burnt out the first time, and that was after I launched a group program that actually in my gut I knew wasn't right. And then
mm,
I burnt out the second time because I tried to launch a sub product of that group program in my gut I knew wasn't right. And then by the time I got to the third one, I was relaunching the group program.
mm,
And that was when my final burnout really hit. And why I mentioned my original story of like the hours that I did is because on the final burnout, I'm laying in my bed like, how can I go from being able to work 18, 24-hour days to not even being able to get through an 8-hour day anymore? And it was so hard because I tied the amount of hours I worked to my identity. I was like, I'm only a hard worker if I do 12 plus hours a day, to the point that Harry, like my partner Harry now, there's 5 years between us. I swear, if you put him on under human design, he would be like a manifesting generator or someone like that, where they don't have to sleep. They can just pump out an idea and they get it, because he's like that. And he will easily do like an 18-hour day, have 2 hours sleep, and he'll be fine. Like there's no, but I was like, I started to feel guilty because I'm like, you're out there and I can't even do 8 hours a day. Like I'm so exhausted. And, at one point he was like, this is getting scary now because you're not at home. Like you're here in body, but your head's not here. I don't know where you are. And
Mm.
we ended up going for blood tests and all sorts because I was getting severe headaches. And I was like, this something's really not okay. And I think in that burnout, it was like my identity needed to crumble. Like that's what was happening. It was the crumbling. And looking back, it wasn't the hours that I was working. It was a different level of stress. Like when you're farming, you live on autopilot. You're pulling the same buttons, you're driving the same machine every day. Whereas when you're building a business, like everybody knows, personal development, business is a thing that does it for you. Like, and it was like all of this stuff from my childhood, the not feeling good enough, the not feeling worthy, the having to get everything done in order to please people, not feeling like I can say no. This was all coming out of the woodwork. And it was like I was so stressed to keep it all squashed down. That's what was creating my burnout. So when I then was like, right, I know how to build a business. I know how to build a successful business. Like I did it, but I was just burning out in the process. Like the first year of business, I made 36 grand. So it's not like I didn't know how to quit a 9 to 5 and do all the things. But I was like, if I've gone through this, there is so many other women that are in the same position, and there's no one in this gap here to help them. So I was like, I love my trauma work. It is the heart, my soul, and I wanted to blend it with business. So that's where the New Woman era was created. And is so, yeah, I just love it. I never find the words for it because I think it has, like when women come in and they say, I want to build this business because I want more freedom. I want to be with my kids more. I want more flexibility. And it's like, yeah, we can give you all of that. But you know what? With this method, you create a legacy that outlives you, not just in money, because you heal so much of your own trauma that, and it stands for what I always wanted. I always wanted my kids to never live the lessons that I had to live. I never want my
Mm.
kids to have to go through a toxic relationship or meet a narcissist and not know how to deal with it. Like they're going to meet them, but I want my children to be able to sit and say, I'm worth more than what you can do for me. And I never want them to go through that. So knowing that now with the work that I do, you create a legacy beyond wealth, and you create this level of peace and stress that that's what you pass on to your kids, not the lessons that you've been holding on to. So that's a long-winded way about my journey and where we got here, but it's just I love it so much. I do.
Yeah, I love that. And there's so much strength that on your journey that is like truly evident that you've had to, show. And it's like that saying of like, you never know how much strength you have until you've got no other option. And, that was a real raw and vulnerable share. So thank you for, really expressing that in, a very raw and vulnerable way, because I have no doubt so many women can connect with that as well. And, myself included, I've been through my own journey with extreme burnout. And, I know those struggles, especially, being in the masculine. It's like you said, like really tying, worth to how much you're doing and achievement and, that identity level. It's like when you identify as someone who is, let's say like a high achiever and they're always, striving and doing and you're a go-getter, it's like our subconscious needs to keep us safe. So like that's the prime directive of our subconscious mind. So it's like if our subconscious has a identity that we are a hard worker, it is keeping us safe by actually matching that identity and playing out that reality essentially. So, and unraveling that is not always easy to do, but it, is such powerful and incredible work. And, I love how you even shared like that first part of your journey where, you really fell into that work and, you explored all of that and you were like, oh my God, like more women need this. And then you kind of took that, next journey into, creating your business, which is so special because I truly believe that, everything happens on purpose to lead us to our purpose, even though it's not easy at the time. It's like, why the fuck is this happening to me? But it's like
Yeah.
in
Who
hindsight,
decided I was going to live like this?
100%. It's like in hindsight, when you look back at that, it's like, oh, like I had to learn that lesson to get to here. So yeah, it truly is so special and kind of going into that second journey of that and even, realizing amongst that, there's, I've peeled back so many layers, but like there's, it's playing out in a different way and it's like going deeper within that work as well. So, so special. And yeah, I have no doubt women listening to this right now can really resonate because I feel burnout is something that is so prominent among women and it's something that's not fucking spoken about enough. Like so many women struggle with it and, not essentially like you were speaking about respect and it's like not loving yourself enough to show up differently for yourself and actually putting yourself first and not abandoning ourselves which is really created from a lot of our childhood and trauma which we'll absolutely go into so yeah, such a real raw and vulnerable share, so thank you so much for sharing that. And was burnout like, I know there was a kind of like a few points where you were like, fuck, like I am burnt out. There's something going on here. Something's not right. Did you feel like it kind of like crept in slowly on your journey, or did you feel like it kind of like hit you all at once, or how did you kind of like experience that?
I think like I think it is such an important question, and I think like something I wanted to touch on as well, like as we get into that is, I think women, the reason so many women are burnt out is because we always feel like we have to prove ourselves over, we've been for so long, we've been kind of conditioned that we have to prove ourselves in order to be just as good as men. And in order to do that, we have to work like men. And that doesn't suit us. Men have a 24-hour cycle, we have a monthly cycle. So, and I think that is such an important distinction that we don't have to work like men. And I think that's the thing. Like, I grew up in a male dominated industry, and I was like, I've got to work like one of the guys because I have to prove that I'm just as good, that I am just as good or I'm better, so that you leave me alone, so that you do respect me. And don't get me wrong, I did it, but it was at the cost of my health. And I think, you know, burnout, I didn't see any of my burnout, especially until I had a business. Like, I don't think I actually experienced it prior to that. I probably, I was definitely experiencing things like trauma and, stress, sort of headaches. Like, I used to suffer, especially when I was in those toxic relationships, like tension headaches, moon face. Like, my face used to be so swollen from water retention. Like, now I probably weigh more now than what I did in that toxic relationship. But if you saw photos, you'd think, Jesus, like there is a whole different element. And I think back then I was probably in a bit of burnout then, but I didn't know what burnout was. And even the first two times that I was burning out in my business, I just thought that I was terrible at what I did because I suddenly content just felt difficult. It felt hard. And I was just like, I'm just getting tired. Like, I've been doing too much. I've been trying loads of new things and I'm terrible at them. And that the blunt honest thought was that I'm shit at this. Like, that
Mm.
was, and I'm failing and I'm not gonna get anywhere. So it was like I was then panicking, like, because this is when money started to come into this. Like, I left my 9 to 5 and it was like suddenly this money dropped and I started to panic. Like, one of the launches, the first launch completely flopped. The money coming through my one-to-ones, and it was like I've launched for so long that even the money slowed down. So it was like this constant stress. So it was like I didn't get a chance to recover from the first burnout. I just literally pushed through, and I was like, you gotta reinvest, buy a new business program that's gonna save you. And it was like I was so desperate to be saved that I didn't even mentalize that actually I had no concept thoughts. They were thoughts of I need to get out of this money situation, not what else is actually going on. And by the time I came around to the second burnout, I just saw myself as someone who was tired. Like that was it. I didn't see anything else. And, I was just like, well, I'm just tired. You need to go to sleep, have a couple of days in bed. And of course, when you have a couple of days in bed, because you're not on your phone as much, the cycle of the burnout starting to ease starts. And of course, you're like, well, I feel better now. So off I go again. And then we go straight back into it. And that was the thing. It was like I went straight back into it. And of course, the window between the burnouts was getting shorter and shorter. And by the time the third burnout come, there was no one at home. Like that's I sat there and I was like, and then I called it launch fatigue. That was the next thing I called it. Oh, I've just got launch fatigue because I can't think of anything. And it was like I had all of these excuses. And in the end, I said to my friend, who is a burnout coach for, people in corporate. And I said to him, I said, what does burnout actually feel like? I said, because I have no thoughts. There no good thoughts, no bad thoughts. Like I went hiking in the UK. We have a place called the Peak District, and it's just beautiful scenery, mountains to climb. And the year before, I went and I got a little black dog, a little cocker dog, and we walked for 2 days. And I had all of these amazing ideas. So I was like, well, I'm going to go again because I've got no ideas. So I'll go. And it didn't. I walked for over 30 miles that weekend and I had no good thoughts. I had no bad thoughts. And I was like, something is so wrong and I don't understand what's going on. And I said to my friend, I was like, I get these headaches that feel like someone's hitting me round the back of the head with a baseball bat. My eye twitches, like my left eye was twitching all the time. I said, yeah. And it was just like, and it's just because your nervous system's so fried, but I didn't understand that at the time. And, it was like no matter how much sleep I got, I was still needing another sleep in the day. I was irritable with my dogs, like I had a short fuse. And at that point, the other thing I really noticed was my speech was so slow. Like I couldn't hold a consistent conversation without literally my speech went from like this to I need to literally think about everything so hard. And for someone who's always firing on all cylinders, I'm like, yeah, this is something is not okay. So that's when I was like, that was probably the point. I was like, something is actually wrong. And I genuinely didn't even want to put it down to burnout. I think that's the thing. Like when you are a high achiever, you're like, I'm invincible. I work like a tank. There is no way I'm ever going to get burnt out. And then you get it. And you're on the floor and you feel so much like you failed, so useless, so weak. Like that's the thing, like weak. You've gone from being this independent person to someone who can't even think straight or think for themselves. And you feel weak, you feel broken, you feel like someone's taken every ounce of you away. And that was when I was like, enough is enough. Something's got to change now. Like you might love your business, but whatever you're doing in your business isn't healthy for you.
Yeah, and I feel that journey is such a deep reflection of what so many women experience. And like your partner saying, Harry saying to you, like, no one's home, like, okay, there's something really going on here. It's like I so resonate with that because I remember on my burnout journey, it was like I was a zombie. I was there but I wasn't there. It's like I was not present because my mind was always in this, that, I gotta do that, and the long list of to-dos, and the endless demands and responsibilities. And I think it was like one night I can't remember, it was like the TV remote or something ridiculous. I'd put it in the fridge and not even realized I'd put it in there. And my partner Jake's like, where's this or whatever? And I'm like, I don't know, I haven't touched it, like whatever. And then he opens the fridge like later to get something. He's like, why the fuck is this fridge? I'm like, I didn't do it. He's like, well, I didn't, so you definitely did. And then it was really like, okay, like I'm really not present. And him even kind of having those conversations, and it's like he just feels like he's speaking to like he felt like he was speaking to a brick wall. It was like there was just no no one home, like you said. So I feel like that was a really good kind of analogy with that. And that journey as well. And, the overworking and, like you said, that masculine, like we're not men, like we are women. And we have, and I know we spoke about this on Instagram previously as well, like having, a 28-day cycle as opposed to a 24-hour cycle. Like women are not made to work themselves to the ground like that. And, we are worthy and deserving and important to be able to actually put ourselves first. And it's like when women learn that lesson and, that's so beautiful of, everything that you've experienced to, and overcome to get to where you are now, to be able to help other women to, move through that and create a life of freedom and, have that healthy relationship with themselves. Because I feel like that is I don't feel like, I know that is the most important relationship that anyone can have in their life. It's like, it's not with our business, it's not with our pets, it's not with our friend, our partner, our husband, kids, it's with ourselves. And when we can truly love ourselves from within and express that in how we look after ourselves, we can have a better relationship with absolutely everything in our life, with time included, with money, with relationships, all of it. So yeah, that is such a special and powerful journey, and it really just shows your resilience as well, because it almost feels like you get like it's like you get knocked down. It's like, nope, I'm getting back up again. And it's like you just keep going and you just keep going. And like you said, those thoughts of like, oh my God, like I'm, weak and like, how can I not even, work like an 8 hour a day or like do this or even think straight? And it's like, our body, and like through my experience with burnout as well, I feel like it's like our body gives us those nudges and then it will give us like more nudges and then we'll ignore that and just keep going because it's what high achievers do. And then you get to this point where it's like the universe is just like, no, you cannot keep going like this. It's like, and it just like slams you and you're like, it sounds like you really got to that point in your journey where it was like, oh, like this is a wake up call. Like I need to do something differently if I want to experience a different life for myself. So to be able to, really like have that realization, because I know when I hit that point in my journey, it was a fucking huge wake up call and it like not easy either because it's like, when you constantly are setting these huge expectations for yourself, it's like when you're, not hitting those, it's like you feel so depleted, and like you're not good enough and like you're not doing enough. But like if someone else was watching from the outside, they're like, what the fuck are you talking about, girl? Like you're doing so much and, all of these things. But it's like until you can see that within yourself, like that's really that, pivotal moment. So yeah, so special. And I feel like we could talk about this all day. But I would love to know, like, how, I guess, like money pressure, because I know you spoke about that time when you had kind of left your business, you're doing the launches and you were like, fuck, like that panic came in because you're like, I need to, make a living here. Like, how did money pressure and I guess that responsibility of like having to kind of make it work, how did that impact your nervous system during that time?
Oh God. Yeah, I think it's like it fried it. Like I think
Mm,
that was such a huge contribute to that burnout because it fries your nervous system. Your nervous system takes so long to come back on board because your nervous system doesn't sit and go, oh, right, yeah, you got to make a living here. It goes, we're in trouble. Like,
correct.
let's get through this. And it doesn't, and the thing is, when we're in that state, and this is something that I noticed in myself, like you don't act from a place of peace. You don't feel settled. Like because it's so easy to sort of say, oh, it fried my nervous system. But what does that actually look like? That's the thing, because on the inside, that feels normal. And I think the sad bit is, and it is sad to sit and say, when you've lived your whole life like that, you don't know any different. Peace
Yeah.
feels foreign, and rest feels guilty. Like there's no kind of normality. You live in this cycle of desperation, of fear, of panic, of stress, and it just looks like stress and anxiety. And society has normalized that so much because so many people live in it. And I think that was the thing. At that point, I was like, well, this is just normal. This is how I've always lived. Like I don't know any different. It got to the point that it was like I'm snapping at my dog for stuff I wouldn't even ever snap at him for. Like I got Joey when I just met my ex. And they say that the dog you get in your 20s is the most special dog you'll ever have. And
Mm.
Joey, bless his heart, he saw all of the tears, he saw all of the heartbreak. So this dog is like my sole leading light. Like I've always said, if I didn't have him, I wouldn't have been here because I became that
Mm.
low.
Yeah.
And it was like suddenly I'm snapping at this animal that's done nothing wrong apart from just get in the way like they do. And that was the problem. And then like Harry would come home and I'm snapping at him, and that's the thing. And your nervous system doesn't just recover from that overnight. And the thing is, when we then go to bed and it's like I'm going to bed and I'm so stressed that I'm clenching my jaw because that's where my nervous system's living. And it took so long to come back into that because the journey back wasn't a journey of we can keep living like this. We have to learn a whole new way of living, and that is a way of peace, of not even so much like I meditate, but I don't sit in meditation. I sit in a, where does my body need support, where does my body need nurturing, and coming back into that breath. Because in an everyday life, like I say, is, and I did a story on this today, funny enough, that the reason so many of us live in stress is because we're constantly looking for a problem in order to protect our identity, to keep us safe, because our nervous system is here to keep us safe. So we will stress about something that doesn't need to be stressed about in order to prevent a problem, to keep ourselves safe. And that's
Mm.
constantly what I was doing. Like in my business, I'm looking for problems with clients before they even had a problem. They're sending me a DM and I'm like, my chest was going at 100 miles an hour, and then just sending a catch up about their day. And it wasn't until I heard the final word on that voice note that I would settle, or that a client would miss a payment. And, like I'm going into a panic and I'm writing out the email to tell them, like, in not even in a kind way at that point, because I'm so stressed and I'm so like, I need to be in control, that I'm not
Mm.
even sending like a level-headed email. And it was just little things like that I was like, well, this is just what you do. This is what my mum did. And it was like,
Mm.
that was the problem. I'm now being my mum, and I've basically lived in a shell of her stress, of who she was, and in her survival. And in that, because that's the thing, like I said before, we can look at our nervous system and we can understand how it works, but what it actually looks like in the lived experience is how people will see themselves. And that's the thing. This had become normal, and that was the scary part. Whereas now it's like, well, do I actually need to react to that? No, that's not really my problem. And stress is now conditional, whereas peace is priority. And
Mm.
when you come into that place, you have so many less problems. Like I think back then I had problem after problem because I was looking. I wanted to see the problem, because we have a thing actually called functional fight, functional flight, functional freeze, where we can live in the daily life, but we activate ourselves consistently because we're addicted to it. Our bodies are addicted to it. And when we don't have it, it feels so uncomfortable. So we look for the next thing to create it over again and live in that cycle. And that's where it was creating this. And, I was overeating, I was binge eating in order to help with the exhaustion. And that's the cycle. It added to the guilt, that it was just like I didn't have just a problem with my exhaustion, I had a problem with my food, I had a problem with my workout. Like it was, no matter how much or how hard I pushed myself in the gym, I didn't ever seem to build muscle. Even though I was getting stronger, there was no physical seeing of me building any muscle. I just looked like I was getting blobby and fluffy. So of course I would restrict. And it was just so many, it wasn't just in my business, it was in so many different elements. But then when I look at like my food and you go back into the business, I used to do the exact same thing. I would go hard like I would do in the gym, and I'd eat really well and I'd work really well. And then I'd start to see the results, panic that I'm doing really well, and restrict. And then
Mm.
panic because nothing's working, and then work like a dog again. And that's the
Mm.
cycle that we live in this push pull. It doesn't feel safe in our bodies to be in this place of peace. And that's how that really, really shows up. So now it's about saying, okay, what does peace look like? How do we create peace and live in peace and find safety in peace?
Yeah,
Sorry, that's a
absolutely.
really roundabout way. Did that actually answer your
Yeah.
question?
Yeah, no, 100% it did. And yeah, it answered it and so much more. So that was beautiful. And there was something that you said within that I was like, yes. And now it's completely just shot out of my mind. That's okay. But was there like a moment on, I guess, like on that journey where you realized that that pushing harder was actually making things worse? Like, was there a moment where you were like, oh, like this pushing, like over functioning, forcing, like is actually preventing me from what it is that I'm chasing?
Not in the moment. Like it wasn't until I was actually in the healing did I actually understand that I wasn't, because in the moment it just looked like I was always trying to save myself and I was trying to work hard and do the right thing. Whereas when I started to do the healing and get to the root cause of why I was doing those things, I started to understand that it actually was that level of, because I don't feel that I'm worthy of success, as we know, our subconscious will go, well, if you don't feel it, I'm going to take it away from you. This is how trauma works as well, and that energetic shift. So it's sort of I saw my mind going, well, you're not worthy of success. So it would go, right, well, you're getting it, so we'll take that away now. And it was when I started to see how that played out. Like, so for me, when I was a child, I'd done these maths exams and I'd worked my absolute tosh off trying to get this certain grade. And my GCSE results came in and I got the grade in the maths, but I also got some other A stars. And my mum turned around and said to me, she said, "Oh, well done, you did better than your brother." And it doesn't seem
Mm.
like much, but as a kid who then saw her brother's face completely dropped, it made me feel so much shame about being successful. And the thing is, at the time, no one ever sits you down and goes, oh, that one time in your childhood is going to affect the rest of your life and how you view success. So, of course, I'm chasing success and I'm getting so stressed out about it because as a child, I learned that stress, success equals shame, makes you feel ashamed of yourself. So, it wasn't in the moment. And I think like at the time in the moment, like I said, it was what I saw as normal because I'd lived that cycle. I'd lived it in my relationships. I would go gun ho in my relationships for it to be kind of going really well. And then I'd panic and then be like, right, well, I've got to go back into my avoidance shell now. And, it would be the same, like I said, with food. And I think this is a really important thing actually to touch on is what pattern you can see in one thing, you will start to see it in everything. If
Yeah.
you open yourself up to look, you will see the way you treat money will be the same way you treat food. The way you treat food will be the same way you treat your relationship. And we don't see these things while we're doing it because we normalize it. And you'll probably find, like, if you look, your parents did the same. Like, my mum was
Mm.
terrible with money. She would do exactly the same thing. My dad was the same. He didn't know any different. He would work his backside off and then would come home, would sleep on a Sunday, and my mum would be like, as they did back then, telling him that work needs to be done around the house. So it's like you're not allowed to rest. I learned you're
Mm.
not allowed to rest. And it's when you can step out of your current experience, does your intuition, your brain actually start to tell you? Like it tells you what's in here because we're as humans, we want to heal. We naturally want to heal. That's why when we get cuts, we heal. It's the same for our subconscious. That's
Mhm.
why sometimes you'll be doing something and a memory comes up, or something just suddenly makes sense as to why you keep doing one thing. It's because you want to heal, you want to let it go all the time. But so many of us are living in survival. And when we live in survival, we don't hear our intuition, we shut it off. Like, I can see you resonate with that. And someone said to me once, when you live in fear, you limit your options because you limit what you view. Whereas when you live in peace, your options expand because you can see more of what's in front of you. And it's so,
Mm.
so true. So, so true.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, it's I like it's so funny that you say about the, what plays out in one area of your life. It's like it's always, will play out in another area of your life, like the relationship with money, like food. And I was literally having this conversation with a client yesterday and about how, she was kind of referring to it as like a vice. And she's just kind of like embarking on her healing journey. And it was almost like she was noticing it with one thing in her life, and then she was able to stop that. But then it's like it just showed up in another way, and then another way. And it's like until we actually get to the root cause, only then can we. And it's like that analogy of like, like the weeds. It's like you have a flower growing and there's some weeds around it. You can keep spraying it with like weed killer, and it might be a band-aid solution for a moment, but it's going to go back to exactly how it was. Like the weeds are just going to keep growing until you get it from the root of the weeds and actually pull it out. Only then will you be able to create that permanent change and, implant the new beliefs and have fertile soil for the flower to essentially grow. And um, I feel, and I know you mentioned and touched on before with, things like with, your mum and that impact and, even that little comment that she had, made, which seems so little at the time, but it creates such a huge impact on our lives. And I see this time and time again working with so many women and, clearing things like negative emotions and, like shame and limiting beliefs and things like that. It's like our subconscious mind and you said like a memory will surface when it's ready to be healed, and our subconscious mind remembers every single thing that has happened to us across our whole lifetime and past lives, and it's only until we actually explore within that and give ourselves that space, and even a container where it is safe to really explore that with a coach who's has the capacity to do that, that we can actually heal that to actually create a different way of living and create new beliefs that support the life that we want to live. So we're not living from that experience when we were however years old at school, and you would have come home feeling so proud of yourself, like, mom, look at these results. And then it's like it just gets shut down, and it's like that's not anything on your mom, because she was doing the best that she could with the resources that she had at the time, and as we all are. But it's like so powerful that you are now, and you were even talking about this before with like when you and how you have kids, like you want to do it a different way. You don't want them to have to experience what you experienced. And that itself is so courageous. And, the more women in this, in this lifetime that, have that courage to move for where they want to go, like the more the world will just continue to evolve. And I feel like it is so needed because even generational trauma, epigenetics, like that is proven to be carried down through generations of our family. And sometimes we're carrying what's not even ours to begin with. So yeah, I think that was a really, really powerful share. And again, thank you for being so vulnerable. I think, so many people listening will be like resonating with everything that you're saying right now. Because again, it's a conversation that not many women have. And it's like burnout. It's like you saying before, like you didn't know, like you had to speak to your friend to be like, is this burnout? Like what is burnout? And I feel like so many women hit that point because, I feel like there is a lot of different like kind of stages or a scale of burnout. But it's like so many women are already in burnout, but they don't even realize it because it's just they've normalized it and internalized it. So yeah, let's kind of like zoom out for a moment and talk about like trauma in general, because I feel like we've already kind of like touched on that and how these past experiences can have such a big impact, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years later from, a single experience. And, there's that term thrown around like little T's and big T's, because, when we talk about trauma in the context, like we can go into like kind of what this means, because especially for those people that are like, they might say nothing bad has ever happened to me, or I've never experienced trauma, because they think, they haven't been in this extreme situation where they've been, completely and utterly traumatized. But, there's, yes, that's a big T, but there's also, what's referred to as the little T's. So yeah, when we talk about context, trauma in this context, what do we actually mean?
Okay, so trauma in itself, like the word trauma, let's soften that a little bit, because trauma itself
Mm,
just is a stored energy, it's a stored emotion, so it's it doesn't have to be a massive situation to create a trauma, because essentially all it's got to do is be an overwhelming emotion that we didn't know how to process in the time. And that's point blank what it is. It just depends, like when we look at like little t, so like a little t could be something that is not so overwhelming that we couldn't, like we knew about it but we just had to shut it off, whereas like a big T is like something that's gone on quite consistently, it's quite in depth, it's shut down your system. And it's what happens is when we then experience trauma, it stays within us when we don't actually, it's like like those slinkies, that's the best way for me to explain it, the slinky that just keeps coiling. That's exactly what a trauma is. It gets stuck within our system, and what happens is our body goes, right, okay, when we experienced this, we felt like this, and I couldn't handle this. This didn't feel good. It didn't feel comfortable. So I'm going to remember that, and I'm going to make sure you don't live it again. So what happens is we then create that protective mechanism that goes, right, okay, if I do this, you won't feel that, which is why when we get into like arguments with our partner and they say something rude to us, we automatically go, right, well, you're going to leave. Because in the past, someone said something horrible to us and then left and abandoned us. So we fear abandonment. Or you'll find that if someone's perhaps not doing the things that you want, we can be a little bit manipulative in order to try and keep them there. And these contexts, like when we can understand that actually sometimes it doesn't have to be a big situation in order to create a trauma, and we can just go, oh well, actually I've just got a stored emotion, so I actually just need to sit with the emotion and process the emotion, and the trauma's gone. Like that's the best. And I think that's like when we can put it into that perspective, it creates so much kindness around it, because otherwise it can feel like trauma, the word trauma, and I found this with people, it can feel so scary, because when we think of trauma, we think of sexual assault, we think of car accidents, we think of physical abuse, and it's not that they're not important, they are. Like every trauma is important, because ultimately that's your lived experience, and that's what makes it important, that you've experienced that, you've been through it. Like, so it doesn't matter whether it's something that was a toaster that caught fire, so now the smell of smoke scares you, over you were sexually abused. Both experiences are yours, so they're both as equally important as one as the other, because both have created an overwhelming emotion in you that is
mm,
now affecting the life that you live today. So when we can come in at that perspective, it takes a fear out of it. And the
yeah.
thing is, when we come in at that perspective as well, we don't always have to relive it. Like a lot of people think, oh, I'm healing trauma, I've got to relive the event. And we don't have to, because when we sit and go, well, it's an emotion, all I've got to do is actually look at what triggers you today, because what triggers you is what's creating the emotion that you're living today. And when you can go into your actual trigger and release the emotion around that trigger, you've healed from like years of stored emotion, stored trauma. And sometimes it can be exhausting. Like I've had clients, and I've had it with myself, where like 10 days you can be wiped out for 10 days, because you've got to remember your body's like, well, I've now got all of this space and all of this freedom, what am I going to do with it? I need to recalibrate. And we do, we and but on the other side of that is the peace, is sitting in that space of, I'm not living it. And you'll find automatically you won't react in the same ways, because like I said before, it's the emotional charge that says, right, well, this was dangerous for me in this moment, so I need to make sure you never feel that again. And the
Mm,
minute you do start feeling it, my protector is going to come along and make sure that you don't have to feel it. So I'm going to do whatever I need to do, even if it hurts you, to make sure you don't feel that and you feel something else. Just
Yeah.
hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, absolutely. And I loved that explanation that you gave and that real like softening of it because I feel like you're so bang on with that. It's like when people think of the word, trauma, like some people can get really, scared and fearful of that. And yeah, it was such a great explanation. It's like what we don't express, we suppress. It's like you can only keep shoving things under the rug until the rug gets so full and it's got nowhere else to go essentially. And I loved what you mentioned as well about the triggers. Like our triggers truly are our biggest teachers. It's like when we can actually shift our perspective on that and actually learn from our triggers and be like, oh, I'm feeling, there's an emotional charge behind this and I'm feeling something from this. What is this trying to teach me? What is this hitting within me that I've not healed within myself? And when we can really use that to guide us, like growth will be inevitable. And I think as well, like you said, like when you start to, really heal those unexpressed emotions, the suppressed emotions, it's like it creates that space and your system almost goes like it's kind of like adjusting to a new baseline. And it's like, whoa, what do I do with this? I feel like that's so relevant. And for so many women that I work with, I see that time and time again. It's like, when they come into like my coaching container, it's like and I'm so sure you would probably see this as well, like women in survival mode. It's like they have no energy for creation because their energy is going to survival, survival, survival. They're, repeating the patterns that, is causing them pain, but on an unconscious level, they are the system's almost addicted to that thing because it's like we actually love the thing that we hate. Obviously, on a conscious level, we're like, what the fuck? Like, I don't want this. I just want to change, but it feels so hard. But it's like, it's actually giving us something. And when we can really unravel that, it can really allow us to move forwards as well. So, yeah, I feel like that was such a beautiful explanation of trauma and really kind of like softening that charge behind it as well. And how does, I guess, unresolved trauma live in the nervous system and even, I guess, like our subconscious?
Yeah, so like I find it will sit within different places in the body. So like, you know, sometimes you might feel that you'll be able to explain it as in, oh, there's something, someone says something to you, say someone says to you, right, money's such a good topic. Money, like, and then just inviting anybody that's actually listening in this moment of say the word money outside of yourself, like say it out loud and notice how your body responds. Does your chest go tight? Does your throat tighten up? Does it feel like your back is squeezing? Because this is your body going, I don't feel comfortable around this. This is not okay. This is not safe. I need to start protecting you. And this is how it lives within us. Like people just think, oh, okay, well, it's all in my head. Like, no, this stuff literally physically is shining through in your body. Like, I will do like a client session, and the process that I walk my clients through is the first thing is we explore the sensations in the body. I've had stuff come up in people's feet. Like, because sometimes in a memory, like, or an event or something that was meant to be happening, sometimes it can be something as simple as you were trying to run, but you couldn't run. So this created a high state of fear. Well, that will be sitting in your legs. So you have to actually physically move your body in order for that energy to move. Because, like I said, emotion, which is the trauma, the overwhelming emotion, which is the trauma, emotion itself stands for energy in motion. So, in
Yes.
order to remove emotion, we have to physically have energy and move physically our bodies. And it doesn't have to be like an hour long thing, it can be like 3 minutes. 3 minutes just shaking our bodies out. And that's the thing, our bodies will show us, and sometimes it can be hard to see. Like, I'm not gonna sugarcoat that. Like, when you're new into this work, it can be really minute because your body doesn't always feel safe to, like, I need to come forward. And I think this is where, if you're trying to deal with like a big trauma, something that's been quite serious that's happened, that is where it is so important to go with the guidance of a facilitator, someone that actually, I'm not gonna blow my own horn here, someone that can actually sit and create safety with you first. Because I think if you're not careful, you can flood someone's nervous system. Like, and I see this a lot. Like, I'm not, I think therapists are very important, but I also, especially from personal experience, talk therapy reignites the memory, so you flood the nervous system.
Mm,
And what we're not actually doing, we're not processing the emotion, so we're not removing anything. And this is what I found. It then literally 4 years later, you just know how to talk about it a lot easier. And what happens is when we don't create a place of safety, whether that's in our bodies, externally, a place where we know that we can come back to that feels peaceful, that feels calm. Like I said in the beginning, this can feel so foreign to so many of us because it's like, I don't know what peace looks like. Like there was a long time that I was like, I don't know what peace looks like. The
mm,
peace to me looks like cuddling up on the sofa in front of the TV and scrolling through our phones, like in a movie, not actually being able to sit and stare at a wall and still feel warm and cozy and quiet within the body. Like there's a whole new meaning, and that's the thing. So when we don't actually know what safety or peace or anything or support or anything like that looks like, to then be like, right, well, I'm going to go and re-trigger you and flood your entire nervous system. This is how people crash. This is how people then wake up with nightmares. And we can't be doing that. So it's really about first feeling a sense of safety within the body and then coming back into the body and saying, right, okay, money, how does that feel? Where is that coming up? And then getting into this, because you can feel it and you'll be okay. But it's when we start digging into it, which is can be quite, important not to flood it, not to flood our nervous systems. And like I said earlier, it can sometimes be so minute. Like I've had times where it's like I'll say something, I know it's a problem, I know it's a belief that's actually holding me back, but you can't always sense it fully in the body. And it can just be there's a tiny muscle in your back that just has just gone a slightly bit tight and it's not as obvious. So it's so different for everybody, and not one size fits all, but the obvious sizes, sizes, places are always going to be a chest, always going to be a throat, your face as well. Like sometimes if you find, I used to find when someone said money to me that my face would start to screw up around my eyes, but because it was normal and I didn't think about it, I'd never noticed it until one day I sat in the silence and was like, right, well, money. And I felt my face start to go. I was like, oh my God, okay. Because that's the thing, what people don't realize, language is only 7% of what we intake. If how we view the world, how we intake the world, the rest is done through our senses, which is our nervous system. How we
mm.
view, hear, touch, and taste and all of the things, that's the rest. So it's just as important to work on feeling the sensation within the body and then asking yourself, okay, what sensation can I feel? Well, I might feel my chest has gone really tight when the word money comes up, or my throat feels like it's lodging up. Okay, well, what emotion am I feeling now? Well, I feel quite scared and I feel quite uncomfortable, and, actually, I feel really stressed. Acknowledging those two on your own before even seeing anything else is so fundamental, because then you can exactly see where it is, how you're feeling, and then you can just start in coming into actually moving through that. So it is very different for everybody, but really it's about creating a place of safety first to then come into releasing the emotion, releasing the sensation.
Yeah, absolutely. That was such a great explanation of, how unresolved trauma really lives in the nervous system and the body. And there was something that you mentioned about the talk therapy, and I was like, yes, yes, yes. Like I do believe, talk therapy and, psychologists and psychiatrists, all of those things, I definitely think that they have their place. But when it comes to the context of trauma, like you're so right. It's like when you're in the trauma and speaking about it, you're literally reliving it. You're triggering your nervous system and everything. Like, again, you're just staying stuck in the story. You're not actually, healing it by talking through it. Because you don't need to, go into that exact event to actually experience those exact emotions, to actually heal it. So, yeah, I thought that was really powerful. And the emotion, with, energy being emotion, it is, everything is energy. And it's like when we can look at it through that lens, it's, it's like it's so empowering because it's like, wow, like we have the fucking tools. Like, how intelligent are our, bodies and our subconscious and our nervous system? Like, it's so intelligent. It's like we actually have the capacity to heal. Like you were saying before about like the cuts. It's like our body's natural response is to heal a cut when we cut ourselves. And it's like that is exactly the same as like humanity as a whole. Like, we want to evolve, like we want to step into our next evolution. And when we really follow, I think, those little nudges and things, it will lead us to that. Because, like you said, kind of like sitting with, the emotion of, or like money, like how do I feel in my body when I think of this? I feel so many women aren't even present enough to feel their body. Like somatically, it's like they can't feel because it's like, yeah, the idea what we are talking about before is like nobody's home. So it's like, I think, really creating that space and, taking those really small steps towards that is so powerful to get to know yourself on a deeper level. So yeah, that was a amazing explanation. And we kind of touched on this a little bit before, but can you kind of like talk into how trauma responses like, I guess, like, freeze, fawn, fight, flight, and even just like that hyper independence or like over functioning can block manifestation?
Oh, I was so excited for you to ask this question. So you were just touching on there, like obviously like about stories, like and I want you to think about this. So the biggest thing about manifestation they talk about is energy. Energy, being able to picture it, being able to feel it. Like the biggest manifestation hack they always say is vision yourself in the moment, in the future, and feel the feelings that you would feel in that moment, and then go through your day living that. It's the same thing that we're doing when we're seeing the story of, oh, I've been in this toxic relationship. You're activating the feelings again. So you might be sitting there going, right, well, I want to earn, I want the man of my dreams. But yet you're sitting there and going, okay, well, I'm thinking about this toxic past and I'm feeling the feelings of that, but I'm not feeling the feelings of what it's like to be in a healthy relationship, to be safe. And what happens is, when we have those survival responses that says, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, you're going to keep calling in because we attract what we believe. So if we believe that I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, you're going to call in someone that goes, I'm going to treat you in that way because that's what you believe, so I'm going to reinforce it. And this is, law of attraction. This is where that comes in. And this is a big part of the manifestation. When we, like I say, we sit and we go, right, well, I'm not worthy, I'm not good enough, I'm going to attract that, because your subconscious is going, well, they they're going to treat me essentially the way that I can be reaffirmed. So when we then get into like a healthy relationship, like I remember when I got my poor partner to start with, and I was like, well, I'm not good enough and I need to leave because you treat me too well. It was because my mind was going, you don't get treated like this because you don't believe that this is something that you deserve. So
Yeah.
you're going to push it away. And this is what we do with manifestation, because we go, our traumas are going, right, well, I don't believe that I'm worthy of a business that gives me financial freedom. So I'm going to push away opportunities and I'm going to have this, desperate energy, which of course, we know that you're desperate. It's like if you go and sit at a bar and this bloke comes up to you and you can see he's like, buy me a drink, buy me a drink, buy me a drink, you're going to be like, go away, go home. It's the same with us. Like it's the same with our energy. Like if we're like going into people's DMs, like buy from me, they're going to be going, no, I need time to make an opinion. I need time to make a choice. And this is how this then shows up is our actions, because we don't see energy. And I think this is what really hard and where people get confused. We don't see energy, we see our actions. But look at your actions as the energy. If you're going into people's DMs like, I need you to buy, or if you're like, you've sent the message of the information for what you're selling, and then you're staring at the screen like, come on, respond and press pay, that's desperation coming through, Like if you're getting into relationships and they buy you nice flowers or they compliment you and you're like, yeah, you're lying to me in the background, you're going to start pushing that person away because you automatically think they're lying to you. And that's the energy going through because you're going to be on edge, and that's the
Mm.
thing, like, so like my partner and I, something we really struggled with when we got into our relationship, or not so much we, more me, is I didn't feel safe sexually. Not because of anything that he'd done, but he could feel the sensations in my body. So he would feel my back go tight. He would
Mm,
feel me not being present. People feel our energies, they feel us pick up on that. So if you're, trying to sell desperately, or you're trying to call in this dream relationship or this dream body, but yet energetically you're like, it doesn't feel safe, I'm not comfortable with this, you're going to push it away, or you're going to sabotage it. That's the other thing we do, we sabotage it. This is where like binge eating will come in. And this is what happens. Our trauma, our responses, our survival responses go, well, that's not safe, we can't have that, I need to make sure you don't get it. And this
mm,
is what blocks our manifestations. Once you clear that barrier, you go, well, it's actually safe for me to have money. It's safe for me to have success. It's safe for me to weigh a certain weight and look a certain way, because I'm not going to get judged for it. So the opening is clear. And then that's what happens. We go and do the things that create the manifestations that we've been asking for. And it just
mm.
comes down to that story and that identity in ourselves. Because if we're like that person that says, well, I overeat, I'm not safe to look a certain way, we're acting in that way. There's so many compound elements of where you can go and looking at this, but it all comes back down to one thing. Our trauma creates our identity. And when we sit in the identity of the person that can't have the thing that we want, we all do absolutely everything, consciously or unconsciously, in order to make it happen. Like, how many times have you been like, right, well, I'm in this, we say with money, I'm saving this money, I'm saving, say, 20k this year, I'm saving this, I want to buy a car. And you get like a grand in, which is more money than you've ever saved, and you're like, right, well, I need a new wardrobe. And before you know it, you've clicked buy, and three, four, £500 gone, and you're like, well, where did that just go? That's what happens. We do it so unconsciously, and then we find a way to justify it. So we then live in this consistent cycle of trying to do something, when actually, if we just went in, change the identity, release the emotion, shift the way we thought about the story that we're telling ourselves, you'd actually reach it, because you've got nothing standing in your way. I love
Yeah.
that topic. It's like one of my
Yeah.
favorites.
100%. I feel like as you're talking, I'm like thinking something in my head and then you say it and I'm like, yes, yes, yes. I feel like our approaches in that sense are very much aligned, which I love. Like I knew our conversation today was going to be so much fun. And yeah, that thing like with manifestation, it's like yes, it's so important to become a match for what it is that we seek. If we seek love in a partnership or a relationship, it's like giving ourselves love now, because we then become a vibrational match for what we desire. And yes, like feeling the feelings that that future experience will bring us in the now. But the other thing, like you kind of touched on there, was like, people don't actually look at what's blocking them from their desires. Like, yes, it's amazing to feel those high vibrational emotions and what that future experience would bring and all those positive things. But, it's in some cases it can almost be like spiritually bypassing, or like that toxic positivity, because people aren't looking at, okay, what's actually blocking me, what's misaligned with this version of me and this version of me. Because if you keep taking the actions that your old self would take, like sending the DM feeling desperate, or on a dating app feeling desperate, or whatever it might be, you will keep blocking yourself from what it is that you really desire. And like you said, whether consciously or unconsciously, you hit buy and it's like, fuck, $1,000 just spent. Like, it's our subconscious runs off what our beliefs. And if we don't actually question those, it's like those, using our actions as a guide. Because it's like, if we and questioning ourselves in that process, it's like if we're sending a DM to someone, we're like, buy this thing, or sending a message to someone, and it's like we're feeling that desperate, it's like questioning that and be like, oh, why am I feeling this right now? Like, what's this telling me? Like, what is it? Like, is there something going on here? And just asking yourself these deeper questions, because I love the saying that our life is only as good as the quality of questions we ask ourselves. And too often we're just going through the motions, and life just being busy that we never actually stop and ask ourselves these bigger questions to then get bigger answers and actually, evolve and transform and actually shift what it is that's blocking us. Because too often it's just going through life and we don't ever look at what's actually blocking us. We just want the shiny objects syndrome kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I feel like I really was going to ask you about, how safety really plays a role in, what we allow ourselves to have, hold, or sustain. But I feel like you kind of answered that. Was there anything that you wanted to kind of touch on with that, or do you feel like you kind of like um, answered that?
I think there's always something. There is always something to do. I think the thing is when you have safety, I think I might have touched on it earlier. When you have safety, you stop the panic because you come into a place of ground. And I think the biggest thing with manifestation is to not need the thing that you want. And I know that sounds really backwards, like because when we need it, we're grasping, we're desperate again. Because like you just said, you touched on there and you said, giving it to ourselves now. How can we give that thing to ourselves now in this moment? And that in itself takes away the need to have it then. Like we don't, I think, and that's where safety's so important. And just like an example with food and money, like this is a great example with food and money. Both, it works for both, but pausing before we eat, pausing before we spend, coming back into that level of giving ourselves just a moment to come back into, I'm going to take a breath. I'm not going to do the thing. And then I'm going to give myself a minute to say, do I actually need this? What is this thing that I'm going to do? If it's the chocolate, what is it actually going to give me in this moment? Okay. It's going to give me a burst of happiness. What else can I do that's going to make me happy in this moment? And you're 9 times out of 10, once you actually go, well, what is it going to give me? You've already given yourself the need that you're looking for, so you can give it to yourself. And then because you haven't gone and then binged out on chocolate, you're actually giving yourself the goal of the manifestation that you want. And the same with money, like going, okay, well, what is buying this thing going to give me? Well, it's going to give me validation. It's going to give me, motivation. Like, say you want to go to the gym, and you're like, well, I'm going to buy a whole new gym outfit. Well, what's that gym outfit going to give me? It's going to give me motivation to go to the gym because I've got this cute gym outfit. 9 times out of 10, if we're being truly honest with ourselves, the outfit turns up and we don't feel the motivation. So it's about how can we then come into that pause, give us that safety and go, well, hang on a minute. Where else can I find this motivation already? And once again, we've saved the money. We're creating a goal by going to the gym. And this is how this plays out. But that pause in itself, that gives you the safety to sit and say, I'm here. I'm whole. I'm safe. Life isn't running away with me. And that's the problem. A lot of the time we think that life is running away with us. And as Tony Robbins said, the biggest problem with humans is they think that they can't have problems, when really the goal should be how to have better quality problems. And that's the thing, isn't it? It's, when we come back and go, okay, well, when we pause, we are creating that level of safety because we're telling ourselves and we're allowing ourselves to look around the room and say, well, actually, I'm here. I'm alive. I'm safe. And that's all our nervous system needs. Like just saying to yourself, placing your hand on your heart and saying, I am safe will be one of the biggest game changers. And
Mm,
it's not much at all, but it allows your body, your nervous system to sit and go, oh shit, I am okay. I'm not going to die, because that's what it thinks. It thinks I'm going to die. So I am okay. I am safe. I am here. My feet are on the ground. I am, my heart is pumping. Like we're safe. That's enough. And that in that level there is your first pit stop to create everything else, like for sure.
yeah, 100%. And it's, like that really explains like why someone can consciously want something so badly. And it's like they're gripping on, and I was literally having this conversation with a client yesterday. It's like they're gripping on so hard and they're trying to control the outcomes. And it's like that need. It's like I can't live without this thing. I need this thing. It's like that is blocking and like the exact thing that you desire and stopping you and blocking you from receiving it and feeling stuck. So it's like when you actually become that vibrational match for what it is that you desire and feel that safety within, that it's safe for you to receive, that it's safe to you to hold that capacity or whatever it might be, like only then will you be able to actually invite that into your life. So I love that. And even you said like with the, just putting your hand on your heart and just reassuring yourself, like I am safe, like I'm not in danger, I am, okay. And like it sounds so simple. And I feel like people kind of like brush those simple things off as, oh, that's not going to do anything, that's not going to change anything. But like our subconscious mind loves repetition. When you can continually, do those small actions and remind yourself that you are safe, that you are enough, that you are worthy, like those start to create new neural networks in your brain to cement that belief in your subconscious. And then, when we change our belief system, we change our life, because we can't have a belief that there's always enough money and hold abundance at the same time. We can't have both. Our life lives like if you think of even like a road, it's like two roads. It's like if we are traveling down abundance road, it's like it's a completely different road to the scarcity road. So it's like our what we believe is literally the road that we drive down in life. Like it's just, yeah, so powerful. And I feel like let's dive a little bit more into money, because I feel like we've really like it's been something that's really come up a lot today. I feel like so many people can resonate with it. And I feel like it's such a kind of like a charged topic for so many people. So how does, and I feel like we've kind of touched on this in another context, but let's talk about it in like relation to money specifically. But how does trauma or even like burnout, how does that affect our relationship with, money, worth, and receiving?
Oh, this is such a great topic too. So I think when it comes, we'll start with burnout and then we'll come into something else, which I think will be quite surprising for many people. Like burnout with money, money creates so much stress. Like I remember when I quit my job, things plummeted. The level of stress to get money back, because we see, like money is one of the things, like when you ask yourself, why do you want more money? Because I can be financially free. Okay, well, what is financial freedom actually giving you? It's giving you security, it's giving you safety. And that's the thing. So, the reason so many of us get stressed is because, like I said earlier, we're seeing as something that we can't control. And when we have money, we can go, right, well, I'm safe, I'm secure. And when we're getting stressed about something, it's a threat to who we are. It's a threat to our life. That's what the stress is coming from. So when we don't have money, when we don't have enough money, we think, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to lose my house. I'm going to not be able to eat. Like there was at one stage, I remember like when everything was going to shit, I literally really struggled. I was counting my money as I was going shopping and I was counting up the cost of the shopping, and it was such a stressful time. And that's the thing, because we're constantly living in stress, and it's like we don't feel any relief until we're at a certain point again in our bank account. We're living in this cycle of stress, and this stress is what's creating the burnout. So money is just an addition to that, because it's like it's a threat. Something that as simple as that one word is such a huge threat to our survival, because that, as we've been told, money makes the world go round. You can't live without money. And in so many elements, like it or not, it is true. It is true. But it's about being able to remove the stress, knowing that if you had no money, you're not going to die. Life's just going to look a bit different. And that's
Mm,
the ultimate thing that comes down to burnout and money. The stress that sits in the middle, does not bridging the gap. It's the threat to our actual living survival. We can live homeless, we can live a terrible life, but as long as we're alive, that's what our nervous system cares about. And the blockage there is we don't see that bit. We don't physically see that bit. We see, I'm going to lose everything, so we're going to die. But actually, it's like I could lose everything and I'm still going to be alive. Life's just going to be a bit hard for a while. And when we can start going into that perspective, suddenly money doesn't seem very difficult. And we take away the level of burnout. Now, the next bit of money, the exciting bit, money itself is actually considered a masculine energy. So when we look at like trauma, especially for women who, when you look at money and then you look at your relationships, you will find there will be a direct correlation between how you treat money and your relationships. And trauma specifically, if you've had toxic relationships, if you've had a masculine energy in your household that you were physically scared of, you will find that you will be scared of money, because you have been taught that the person that provides and protects for you, that lives in the masculine energy, is now the other thing that provides and protects for you, which is money. And
Mm,
when we can sit and go, well, hang on a minute, if I just heal one, I'm going to naturally heal the other, it suddenly takes this huge pressure off, and we kill two birds with one stone. And that's the thing. Money creates so much stress because we learn that it's not safe to have it. The same way we learn it's not safe to have a loving relationship. We learn
mm,
that we can be scared of it the same way that we might be scared of a man. Like for me personally, my dad, because of the stress that he was under, some days he would come home from work and you would do everything to avoid him. He was very angry. So I learned growing up, I was absolutely petrified of money. Didn't know how to handle it, didn't know how to work with it. And we live like this and we don't realize the correlation. So when you can sit and go, okay, like, how do I show up in my relationships? Do I overgive in my relationships? Now ask yourself, with money, are you overspending? Are you overspending beyond your needs? You know, in your relationships, okay, do I find that I have quite an anxious attachment where I'm always worried about it, where I'm worried that it's going to leave me, where I, will use it to my advantage in order to get what I want? Now look at your relationship with money. Are you always worried about money? Are you worried that money's going to leave? Are you using money in your advantage to get what you want by over giving gifts when you don't need to give gifts? And that direct correlation can make us wake up and see so much is going on, but they both sit in the same box, that until you remove the emotion that sits within them, you're going to keep having the exact same problems.
yeah, that was such a great like perspective that you gave, especially on like the, money and being masculine and, what we really kind of like observed growing up. And like, we know that, childhood, like from the ages 0 to 7, our subconscious is literally like a sponge. It's absorbing everything in its absolute truths. And, it's like the world is literally telling us like how to live our life. And it's like until we actually peel back those layers and those layers of conditioning to what it is that we want to believe about these things, can we actually change that? But yeah, that was a really interesting perspective. So thank you for sharing that. And I feel like you kind of touched on this in terms of like how especially with, mentioning like the burnout and then the money and like that, how where that like that stress coming in, like how does, I guess, chronic stress or, that survival mode impact our capacity to, hold success, hold money, abundance, or even just like grow as a whole?
Because we're in survival, for starters, we see a limit to our options. That's
Mm,
that's the biggest thing with survival. We see a limit to our options, and we see, instead of seeing that we have five choices, we see that we have two of the very worst ones. So then we feel like there is no way out. And what ends up happening is we end up looking at life is happening to me instead of life is happening for me. We see life as, we all sit there and we go, why is this happening to me? What's wrong with me? Why aren't I good enough? Why aren't I this? Why aren't I that? Instead of, we don't, because we're in such a, high survival state. We're seeing as life as literally as everything as what's going wrong for us, and we don't see anything that's going right for us. So we don't actually see that maybe we got this promotion at work, or that our car is so safe it gets us around from A to B, and we don't see the lighter things in life that help us move forward, that help us grow. The lesson that has come from this that actually helps us evolve. We get stuck in the mud, and we don't see the way out. And you'll find as well, like, when you've grown up in households that are chaotic, and you look at your parents, like you touch on generational trauma there, and it is important. When we look at our parents and go, well, how were they with these things? We learned these things as normal. Like, when you look at, say, like your parents, if your parents were someone that you got paid on a Friday, by Monday it was all gone, so you had to stress throughout the week, you'll probably find that you do something similar. Unless you're the polar opposite and you absolutely hoard it because you're so scared of not having any money. The point in the middle is the same. It's the fear. So you're
mm,
seeing that life happens to you because of you and who you are, and instead of actually what life is trying to give you because of who you can be. And that's where we have that whole new perspective shift, because we don't see, and this isn't anybody's fault, it's just our natural biology. Like when we are in certain survival states, our hearing shuts down. Like there is a point in our ear that actually shuts down. So we don't hear everything, which is why in arguments, someone can be like, actually, no, I said this. Are you listening to what I just said? And it's like, we don't actually physically hear it. Like we just don't. So that's why we then see that they might have said, you're really such and such, but all we heard was you're really the first negative word. Like you see the funny comments. What I can't remember what they are off the top of my head, but that's actually what happens because we're not able to physically see the full picture. Because
Mm.
once again, we are reaffirming what we believe about ourselves in this state. When we then shift into a state of it doesn't have to be like this and life is happening to me to teach me, we
Mm.
see the full sentence. We see that actually you are this, you are that, you are all these amazing things. And then we start to believe that. And of course, when we believe that we are good enough, when we believe that we are worthy, when we believe that financially we do get to be financially free, we start to be that. We start to be that person. So it becomes us. Whereas when we believe that we have no money, we are that person. We reaffirm that.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And like that is really like the job of our reticular activating system. It's like where our attention goes, our energy flows. And that's like what we focus on expands. And when we're, like if we're wearing glasses that only see XYZ things, you physically can't see the other things. Like our brain will literally block those out. So opportunities, people, places, experiences, things people say, like all of those things will be completely blocked out because it's not matching the identity that you've created for yourself. So I think that was a really beautiful way of, yeah, really, really touching on that. And if we were to kind of like flip the script and kind of like before we wrap things up, because I mean, I could speak all day, but we're like almost at an hour and a half, and I know it's late for you. But if we were to kind of like flip the script before we wrap things up and kind of like talk about like what does manifestation actually look like when it's like grounded in nervous system state safety rather than, that force, that urgency, or that survival.
Oh, I think this is a phase I've definitely been living in at the moment, is you live in a place of certainty. So
Mm,
you know that it's happened before it's already happened. So something I live by is if you can see it, it's already done. Like if you
mm,
can vision it, you can see it, it's already done. And what happens is when you're in this place, you can sit in the uncertainty and you can keep showing up and doing the work without feeling like you have to get it all done now, because you're like, well, it's already done. So what does it matter? The same with like the money. If the money's not rolling in like you wanted it to, well, it's already done. So why does it matter? The
mm,
client didn't sign up. Well, I've already got a wait list full of clients in my vision. So why does it matter? It's okay to let that person go. And this is what it looks like. It looks like being able to say no and not panic. It looks like not getting a task done and not feeling bad or feeling like you're falling behind. And it looks like things not happening for you and you still being able to follow through on the concept that you started with in the first place. Because I think that's the thing. When you're in survival, something won't be working. You'll be like, right, I've got to totally change absolutely everything that I'm doing. And it's like, if you just sit with the idea for long enough, two things are going to happen. You're going to sit and go, okay, this really isn't working. What is it I actually need to tweak in order to make it work? Or the gap that you're not quite seeing yet is going to come. It will just
mm,
naturally drop in. But if you go, right, well, I'm going to totally change my business concept, my meal plan, because these things aren't working, I'm not seeing the results, you're just going back to square one. You're not seeing the results. Whereas when you're in this place of, I'm at peace, I don't need it now, I get to wake up, I get to still love my life like it is every day. Like now, I wake up every day, and not every day, like we all have shit days, but I wake up most days and think, what, I actually genuinely love my life and I'm so grateful for what I have now, and the relationship, and yeah, things aren't perfect, but that's okay. Like, it's not meant to be. But when you
Mm,
can sit in that space, you don't need anything. You're just grateful for everything that comes to you, and you can stay the course of what you're working on because you believe in it and you've
mm,
already can see the result. You already know that it's happened, so you don't need to chase it because it's already happened. It's just not quite reached you yet. You haven't quite stepped into it yet, but it's already on its way. And I think when you operate in that place, life gets to be enjoyable. It's not stressful. You enjoy the journey. You hold in the uncertainty. The ideas drop in naturally. You're not having to spend thousands on coaches and things like that because, like, these things are coming to me naturally. But obviously, sometimes you need a coach to then support you to go further. But you don't feel like you are so desperate to be saved because you sit and go, well, actually, I don't need to be saved. I just want to up level and I want someone to help me to do that. And
mm.
that in itself is the difference for sure.
Yeah, I think that was such a beautiful, yeah, such a beautiful explanation there. And like even like reflecting on your journey from like obviously, at the start of the episode, you really sharing about, the struggles that you've been through and, everything that you've faced and overcome to like where you are now and, being able to wake up with this pure excitement and joy like is evident. So like for anyone listening that's like, I can't do that, or, I'm this way because of X or Y, or, I'm not special, or whatever it might be, whatever story it is that you're telling yourself, like use Emma as like, and her story that she shared today as like evidence that it is possible for you too. And I loved what you started on there in terms of like if you can see it, like it's already done. Like I truly believe that as well. It's like our desires are on our heart for a reason because they are meant for us. And we need to love ourselves enough to actually give us the opportunity to make them a reality because a lot of the time like we are the biggest ones blocking ourselves, like we're the ones placing the ceiling right here, which can be really hard, but in the same token like it's also hard staying the same. So I loved how we kind of like shifted that because we spoke a lot into like what's blocking the trauma and sorry, what's blocking the manifestations and all those sorts of things. And I think that was a really beautiful way to see like what it looks like on the other side of that as well. And I truly do feel like, when we use joy as the compass, it allows us to like have this genuine joy and lightheartedness and happiness and peace in life. And when we vibrate at that level, we naturally attract what it is that we desire. Like we become a vibrational match. Like, like you said before, the law of attraction, we attract what we are. And when we're in that state of flow, like things just start to flow with so much more ease. And it's like there's not that sense of urgency or force or push or striving or proving or chasing, things. It's like you already believe it's done and you trust that, what is meant for you will find you. So I think that was so beautiful. And what would you say? What would you say some are some maybe gentle starting points for someone who right now feels burnt out, they feel blocked, or they feel stuck, or like they're just circling in survival mode? What would you say to them?
So the best one definitely is start to remove mental stimulation. Like I know that sounds really backwards because we're taught now to like use every minute of every day to be learning something or doing something, but start going for a walk without your headphones. And if you can, like definitely go without your phone and just start even at like 5 minutes and try and take it up to like an hour because you'll find that your brain will just start talking to itself and you'll have ideas and sometimes the breakthroughs will come through with that, but ultimately we're cultivating a space in our brain to just be
Mm.
like, and an extension of this is to lay on the floor and stare into nothing. Like once again you might be like, oh my god, she's just telling me to waste my time. Like no, when we start to bring stillness into our life, we once again basically we're telling ourselves it's safe to just be. It's safe to just be here. We don't have to be doing something all the time. And it's a practice. It takes time, but those are the two biggest first things because not everybody feels safe to sit in a meditation. Not everybody feels safe yet to sit in a meditation. So going off into sitting into stillness, and just looking into nothing and just gently saying to yourself, you know what, I'm safe, I'm here, and removing that mental stimulation, like thinking of yourself as like a water bucket. And the more things that you're filtering into your brain consistently through information, you're filling up the water bucket. So another thing is starting to look to incorporate routines. So, you know, like the night before you go to bed, picking out what clothes you're going to wear, making sure your drink is there ready for the morning. And you might be like, well, that's really simple. And that's the point. But what it does, it takes away some of that water for your bucket in the morning. And
Mm,
it gives yourself a little bit more time just to slow down and take a minute. So really start looking at what your routine looks like on a day-to-day basis. If you've even got a routine, if you haven't got a routine, what are three simple things that you do every single day that you can actually start to bring back into yourself and go, right, if I organize this, it's one less thing for me to think about. And then, like I say, going for a walk, making sure you're actually giving yourself that moment to just go for a walk and incorporate that stillness. And then if you can really add in that level of laying down, sitting, staring into nothing, you're actually going to start to feel your nervous system come back on board, and making this a daily practice. It's not just a do it once and that's it. Like these things have to be daily practices. Like I literally will stare into nothing like 3, 4 times a week now. And then I'll do like a safety meditation 3, 4 times a week. It's these things all combine in together. But my favorite thing to do is and this is probably going to be like too much info, but everybody will love it. It's great.
that's
When you lay in the bath, if you've got a bath, and ask yourself, where in my body needs a space of nurture? You will find that your body will naturally bring up a place of sensation. And because you're in the bath, energy and all the, you know, anatomy and all the sciencey stuff, you feel it so much more sensitively, like sensitivity. You can feel it so much more. I can't say that word. It's late now. But, and what you can do, you can place your hand on the space and inviting your breath. So allow your breath to really imagine you're pulling the breath down into the space where that sensation's sitting, and holding your breath at the top and then releasing it like you're blowing through a straw. But on each inhale in, imagine that that breath is like a hand and you're taking a little bit of that sensation out. And you just do that. And it might be that you have to do that for 10 or 15 minutes, but you will start to find just by doing that alone, you're bringing in presence, you're bringing in stillness, and you're allowing energy to move through you. And if you can start making time to combine these, you will actually start to find you heal your burnout for good, like in a
Mm.
long period, not just oh, I'm good for a month and then that's it, we're back in burnout. And that's the important thing. You're healing it for a lifetime, not for a quick fix.
Yeah, that was such a beautiful explanation and some, really great starting points. So if you are listening, if you need to take notes on that to write down, to give you those small steps to really start, 'cause I feel like so many women they like have this, like they try and change overnight. They overwhelm themselves with so much. It's like, I've got to do this, 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 and this. But it's like, no, you just need to start small. And I think a reflection of what you said is, really just allowing yourself presence with no noise. Like put down, the phone, the social media, the tasks, the emails, the work, all of the things, and just be with yourself. And I've seen this like in my psychic work with clients where spirit is like I've had a client recently, like she's trying to conceive, and I've had a client's like she is like lost in her career and purpose, and it's like the message is the same. It's like there's no room for, the baby to come in. There's no room for your intuition and inner guidance to actually come in when there's literally, it's like the plate is like so full already. So it's like when you're trying to add more on top of this, like there's nowhere for it to land. And I feel like it's really evident on your journey as well. It's like when you've given yourself that space, you've allowed those, downloads and ideas and things to really pop in. And it's like it's true evidence. Like when we create that space and that presence, like we can truly connect deeper with ourselves and, have that creation energy of what we desire and all of these ideas. And it just flows so much easier from there. And I do think, like you said, like, starting small is so important because I remember when I was after burnout, I'm like, okay, I need to slow the fuck down. And I was like, I can't sit still for 1 minute. How am I going to do a meditation for 15 minutes? So it's like, if it's starting literally with 1 minute or 2 minutes or whatever it might be, it's like starting small. And the more that you take that action, like that will compound and you'll be able to build on that over time. And that's really how, permanent change is created. So, yeah, I think that was so beautiful, beautiful. And I loved the bath one. I think I'm gonna try that.
I highly recommend it. I like I say, it's so weird. I think I remember the first time I did it because no one had recommended it to me. I was like, I'm just gonna give this a go, and it was like I felt the whole bath pulsing, and it was so. But it is so. But the freedom that sits on the other side of that is absolutely massive. So yeah, definitely give it a go. Then let me know how it goes.
Yeah, 100% I will. And it makes sense with the water because I mean, water is energy as well. And moving energy, like emotions, need water as well. It's like after I do healings with clients, it's like I'm always like, make sure you drink lots of water over the next couple of days because it, like, just like the moon, affects like the water and the tides in the oceans and things like that. It's like the same as us. So yeah, that's so cool. I'm definitely gonna let you know how that goes. And before we wrap up, now, if you were to have like one sentence for what you would say to someone who feels manifestation like just has not worked for them, what would you say to them in one sentence?
Oh, no, that is hard. That is hard.
Or a couple of
Um,
sentences.
yeah, I'm a talker, so it's if you feel that manifestation's not been working for you, the biggest thing is you need to stop looking at the manifestation you desire and the person you need to become in order for the manifestation to happen.
Mm,
Because that's where the blockage is. It's not about the manifestation itself. Yeah, it needs to come to you. Who do you need to be in order to make that manifestation happen? And then you'll start to see it will happen.
yeah, you couldn't have said that any freaking better. I love that. And before we kind of chat about where listeners can find you and sharing more about what you offer, is there anything else that you feel kind of called to share with our listeners before we, yeah, wrap things up? I feel like we've covered so much, but I just thought I'd
We
open that
have
space.
covered so much. Yeah, I think the biggest thing if you're someone's listening, they've suffered, sexual trauma, they're trying to get into like a healthy relationship, they're trying to have this money, this wealth, this, all of the things that the biggest thing that I can offer is that you go and look after yourself first before chasing all of those things, because what you'll find is those things will amplify it and challenge you. And sometimes that can be really hard, like it can be really difficult. So allow yourself to love yourself enough to hold yourself first, hold yourself to know that there's nothing wrong with you. You are okay. You will get through this, but you have you. Like, and that's the most important thing, that you have you, because that will allow you to get through the rest of it. And you will grow and you will heal for the rest of it, but that will amplify it. And it's about holding you first before asking for the rest, because the rest isn't going to take it away. That's the thing. The rest won't take away what happened, it won't change it, but it will amplify the feelings that come with it. So come home to you, look after you first, and then go after everything else. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's definitely probably the last bit.
Yeah, you said that so well. And I feel like so many women will resonate with that. And it really is so many women like, rest and time for themselves is like conditional for them. Like when I finish this or when the long list of to-dos get done, then I will, prioritize myself or rest or read the book or have the bath or whatever it might be. But I think that was, yeah, just such a beautiful message to wrap everything that we've spoken about today up at that, you are worthy and deserving and it's time to put you first. Like you're worthy of that. So yeah, so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing with such an open, beautiful heart. I've absolutely loved our conversation today. So where can everyone find you and follow along with you, and work or work with you directly?
So you can always, Instagram is always like the best. That is like my home hub at the moment. So that's just come and drop in, find me on Instagram, drop me a message. If you've listened to this and something touched your heart, like please do let me know. I think that's such a, it's always so great to hear your own story. And in terms of what I do at the moment, I just have my own one-to-one. Like I'm really growing and expanding that. So we can have a chat, see what that looks like for you, what it is you actually need, and then discuss going forward from there. So definitely Instagram, and that's just Emma_J_Walsh. And just drop me a message. I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, perfect. And I will obviously put everything in the show notes below, so that the listeners can easily find you. And, for anyone listening, if this episode really resonated you, like share it with a friend, like share it in your stories, tag both Emma and myself. Like it would mean the absolute world and, really help both of our messages to just get into more ears, because I feel it's definitely a conversation that needs to be spread and heard, because it's something that women don't speak about enough. And too many women, in this earth are suffering from burnout and, all of the struggles that we spoke about today. So, yeah. And just Emma, thank you so much for this conversation and for the work that you do, because it truly is meaningful and impactful. And it has been such a pleasure having you on the podcast. And I'm so excited for next week to be a guest on your podcast on Healing is the Strategy. I can't wait.
Oh, it's going to be absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for having me. This has been such a great conversation. I've loved I can't believe how quickly the time's gone, because that must
I
be
know.
such a long recording.
We're like an
But
hour and 45 minutes, but of gold.
exactly, all of the juice. But no, I am super looking forward to next week. Like I say, and if any of your listeners are listening, definitely come and have a listen to that. Because if anything, if this has been anything to go by, next week is just going to top the charts. So plenty to come and join in on.
I love that. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, Emma. And I will see you all on the next episode. Bye for now.